I'm Bill Shea, and I'm here with Tom Collier. We are members of the Hubbardston Vietnam Veterans Memorial Committee. We thought that just before the event, which will occur on the 30th of May, coming up very shortly, that we'd take the time to acknowledge and thank the many people, organizations, and businesses that were extremely helpful. And without them, this would not have become a reality. And right up front, we want to say we're doing our best to include everyone. And if you didn't get included, don't be offended. We tried our very best, and we'll acknowledge you at some other point. So without any further ado, Tom Collier is going to take over here and talk about some of the individuals and groups that were very helpful.
Whenever you start a project such as this, you need leadership. Someone has to come up with the idea, and in our case, the town administrator, Ryan McLean, was the one that began. I remember one day him calling me into his office and asking me if I would be interested in being part of this, and I said absolutely. The interesting issue is that he did this just before as a reservist. Ryan was called back to active duty and was deployed overseas, and has just recently returned to us. But he left this project in the hands of a committee headed up by Bill Shea and a number of other people, and he's going to talk about that. Moving on, I'd like to move that next to the other people I think that early on really helped us get started, and that certainly were town officials in town. The selectmen, every time we've gone to them with some issue or something we needed to try to address, we were supported uniformly by everybody. The town clerk in town, she has been and remains an advocate for what we're doing and helping us at every single. If we had a problem and didn't know exactly where to go, she could really sort it out for us. And then let's go on.
Yeah, the highway department. You talk about the officials, and you talk about the people who are where the rubber meets the road. And there were more than one occasion where we had to do construction work at the site. And without skipping a beat, the highway department showed up and followed our direction. They're the experts, but we knew what we needed to have done at the time, and they did digging, they did excavation, they helped us pour cement, and really, that I thought would have been more of an obstacle, but with a 24-hour notice, they were there at the crack of dawn and helping us out, so we certainly couldn't have asked for more cooperation from the community, and you know that could be an obstacle. But they were with us from the beginning of this journey of 1,000 miles. And then we don't know where to begin or where to end when it comes to our list of donors. There were businesses, organizations, residents, friends from far and near. We cannot believe how successful this drive for raising donations was. In fact, we even had a raffle, and we raised over $2,000 with a raffle, and that was by two of the citizens of Hubbardston who don't want any of the limelight, but they did a great job, and we were able to raise $2,000. And the result was they were able to do so much more than we initially thought we'd be able to do, and without asking for any public funds. So I think that's a real tribute, where you get on the road and you see somebody's trying to raise money, and they have a certain amount of money they're trying to raise, and they're halfway there and they're struggling. Well, we had set a goal, and that was to design our monument and also to raise the money by Veterans Day, November 11th of 2021, and we were there beforehand. In fact, we exceeded it, and as you will see with the final product, we were able to do so much more than just the monument. Tom, tell us about the media. How did they help us?
You know, despite what everybody in town and locally did, the media has just jumped into this and supported us and has been supporting us in this journey all along. We can't, WGAW and Gardner, the Gardner News, the Barry Gazette, our local TV, cable unit,
Public Access TV.
Yeah, Public Access Committee has been right up there. Every time we want to make one of these, it's not them telling us when it can be. It's them asking us when we wanted to do it.
Absolutely. And let me add something to that too, and that is that those are things that already happened. And when the actual day comes, we've reached out to Boston TV, Channel 4, Channel 5, Chronicle, and we didn't get no response. We got a response, and they thought that what we were doing is great. And so we have the possibility of getting some extra exposure, which we would love to have. And I think that it's truly a tribute, because as we did our research, we found out that less than half of the communities in Massachusetts have a Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And we started out with the idea of this shouldn't have started so late. This should have happened earlier. But as we began to develop the monument, we found out that there are a lot of communities that don't have it. So this is really special. And people are coming in from all parts of the country to be there on our day. And so we're hoping that the media will pick up on this and we'll have extra coverage. We've been in touch with the Athol News and also the Worcester Telegram, so we'll see who shows up.
Yeah, that's great. And some of our local organizations in town have taken an interest in this. The Lions Club, for example, has come to the finish line here with us. They're volunteering to feed everyone that comes, not just the people in the parade, not just the people who are speaking, but anybody that gets there. Anybody, if you're in there just watching what's going on, they're going to feed you. They're going to have a hot dog fest over there. All of that's going to be over in the parking lot where the police department is, and also we've got a couple other people I'm going to think a little bit later, but the things that they're bringing that they think and we think should be there for at the end of the program that you can go and take a look at. That's where that's all going to be on the other side. And
the Council on Aging is going to have ice cream offering after that too. So,
you just have to be there. It's going to be a place that I got to say, I bet if you'll never, most of us in our lifetime may not see this again. I mean, this is going to be big. The Hubbardson celebrations, when we for the field day and for all of the things that we've done since we started this program, all we had to do was ask, and they always placed us right up front, right where no one could miss us.
Extremely effective too, because not only from the standpoint of raising the donations, which we were still doing during that time frame, but also to get the word out. And because one of our major goals was to be sure that we did our best to outreach to every Hubbardston Vietnam era veteran. And the results were actually overwhelming, that we identified and certified over 200 Hubbardston residents who were Vietnam era veterans, and we had no idea that it would be that amount. But we were inclusive because we wanted to be sure that no one got left out. And so you didn't have to be a resident of Hubbardston just during the Vietnam era period. If you moved into town after, like Tom, coming in 1979,
It says 85.
85, you know, you're going to have that opportunity. And I remember distinctly talking with you, Tom, and saying, is your name on a memorial any other place? And you said no. Well, it should be on our memorial in Hubbardston, and that was the case with well over 100 veterans who moved into town after, who have not had that tribute paid to them, and so they will be acknowledged and they will be honored. And we're pretty proud of that monument too, because in doing our research, the other memorials, which are really great and will look very good, the font on the letters, on the names, are a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch. Ours are a full inch. I want you to be able to read that from 15 feet. So if you have a relative or you are one of the ones on there, you're going to be able to find your name. So we're all moving in the right direction. There were other companies and other organizations, and we call it in-kind services. I mean, volunteers are volunteers. But when a company provides a service that would normally cost money, and they do it for free, that's really something. And we had Graves Concrete from East Templeton that came in and poured some concrete for us one time. We had Astro Crane in Boxborough, which has really gone out of their way to provide a temporary home for our monument, and the many times that we've had to move and examine it, and they have opened their doors and provided all kinds of assistance in making sure the monument looks the best that it could. We have Hubbardston Equipment that took the time to provide a service with the restoration of the Civil War monument, where the cannonballs had disappeared, and we were able to replace them, but we wanted them to look virtually identical to the original pyramid, pyramids in this case, and they provided us a service and did it for free, and without them our budget could have been busted. So we've just had, you know, so many who have answered the call. You know, goodness, I can't think of anybody who said no. You know, I mean, some said, I can't do it, but I can tell you about somebody who can. And so we've really been blessed that everybody has been on board with this. So we're really anticipating that it will be an eventful day and a meaningful day.
You know, and with all these volunteers, I recall, Bill, that we were sitting at a table with our group early on, and the idea was, okay, it's March of 2021, and can we have this done by May of 2022, or should we do it in 23?
You have a good memory.
And I don't think it got out of my mouth until you said, no, we're going to do this for 22. And there were a lot of people in this town and in some of the committees that I went to in the very beginning thought, you think you can do that? And I just said, yeah, I think we can get that done. And the people that jumped on our committee, they're all in. And I mean, we used a lot of paper contacts. I mean, if you knew what every single day when I opened up my email, there was something from every single person on that committee that had accomplished something that they had been given that we thought was going to take 2-3 days or a week, that was done yesterday. And so our committee was just great.
We had a can-do person. We had a can-do personality, and we knew that this was a long time coming, and we all said that it should have been done earlier, but because we've had many veterans who have passed.
Right.
And so the idea that we didn't want it to be another year, we felt that putting our heads together would result in getting it done in that time frame. So we had hard, fast deadlines, and we've met every one of them.
And in addition, you know, the people that make these kinds of things unforgettable, the Massachusetts National Guard are going to be here marching with us.
Absolutely. Color guard.
Right, giving us a color guard. Monty Tech has come forward. They're going to be here. Quabbin Regional High School. The instant that the Quabbin they were supposed to be in Hardwick, right. And the instant that they found out that Hardwick was not going to have a parade, they completely turned around and called, because we had looked into the fact of trying to make see if we could get Hardwick to change with us, which, you know, I had tried to do some years ago, and I was pretty sure we couldn't get that done. Mm-hmm. But they called right away, and the Quabbin Regional High School and their ROTC unit is going to be here marching with us. Higgins Power supports. Guys, a couple of weeks ago when we had our we talked about what we were doing with the memorials. They're the ones I mentioned that came forth with these. I think it's going to be 6 different pieces of equipment from World War II that have been restored, and they're going to be on display immediately after. They're going to march in they're going to bring them in the parade, but that parade, as soon as they get up to the common, they're going to take a right turn into the parking space there at the police department. Mm-hmm. And they'll be there after it's all done. They'll be over there for you, where you can go over and get your hot dog and your ice cream, and take a look through them. And the kids the young men that have done this will be there to answer all your questions, let you get up inside of them. I'm telling you, they're proud of what they ought to have, and we are very proud that they've been able to support us. Antique car clubs. I think there's could be 5 of them.
There were 6 clubs that I contacted. Each of them have not officially committed, but each of them has said, we believe we can send a few cars. So we'll have a very nice combination right. of classic cars and hot rods and that type of stuff.
I know there's several in committees in town that are going to have some kind of a display. So all of that is all the things that we normally would see are still going to be with us. And I think I could go on for hours, I think, about the things. I mean, it's like every day somebody, said, yeah, sure, we'll be there.
Yeah, so. Exactly. I mean, right up until even yesterday, I got a phone call from a fellow who has another military vehicle, and I said, "Oh, are you with Higgins Power Sport?" No, I have a large military vehicle, and I'd like to participate. I said, "Of course," and a real shout out to the Council on Aging, the Senior Center, for all they're doing, right up to and including the decorations of the floats. McCarthy Bus Service has been very, very helpful, and gave us 2 buses. One that's going to go over to Quabbin and pick up the drill team, and a second one going into Worcester to 75A Grove Street to the Veterans Outreach Center there, and they're transporting veterans up. So the Senior Center is going to be decorating 2 or 3 or maybe more floats. So the veterans who are not comfortable walking will have a ride. And and the Memorial Day Committee has worked tirelessly. Tom and I are also on that. And every time we get together, there's a lot of energy, positive energy. And Tom's been with the Memorial Day services for a long period of time, and Claudia has been doing it for a couple of years, and so we have John Nason bringing a lot of experience to it. So we've been really coming up with some good ideas, and one of which is we want to be fully organized for this because we sincerely believe it'll be one of the biggest Memorial Day experiences that Hubbardston has ever seen. And I wasn't around for the bicentennial, but I think this will meet or surpass people's expectations. Don't expect the normal, because it's not going to be normal. It's going to be very, very different and very, very good. And I would say be there or be square. So, and then we have our committee that has worked very, very hard to make this become a reality. We had 7 volunteers that came forward, and each of them brought to the table something to offer, and we certainly want to acknowledge them. 3 of these committee members are in-country Vietnam veterans, and so they brought a perspective when we were seeking out, the things that we needed, and they had their opinions and input, which was very, very important. So we have Tom Collier, Laura Foley, Steve Meager, Dolores Ordway, Bill Withycombe, and Sarah Wyman, who was a former veteran service officer for Hubbardston, and myself. Beyond that, we had Ed Blanchard, who was a committee member, but at some point felt that his expertise and his input would be better served if he wasn't officially on the committee. So he became our official advisor. And my goodness gracious, we would not be where we're at now were it not for the tireless effort of Ed Blanchard, who goes off to Florida during the winter, but nary a day going by when we didn't have some kind of interaction, or he was making phone calls, or putting together bids and following up on them. And this is a multifaceted project, and so we really want to acknowledge Ed Blanchard, who did such a great job and wants to remain kind of in the shadows, but without him we certainly wouldn't be where we are.
Absolutely.
Today.
Couldn't have done it without him.
Yeah. And then we have our Vietnam veterans. It's all for you and all about you, and we all would say it's about time. One of the, that day, we will unveil the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, but there's all of the time and effort and sacrifice that went into it, we owe to you, our Vietnam veterans. And without this, it wouldn't have happened. So you will find that there is a special scroll on the front of the monument, and it says, "Welcome home." And on the back of the monument, there's a scroll, because the names are on both sides of the monument. And that scroll says, "All gave some, and some gave all." And there is no doubt about that. So we want to sincerely thank you for what you did. And we hope that this tribute, that this memorial, meets with your expectations and satisfaction. So thank you.
And that brings us, I think, to the area of did we forget anybody here? And it's likely we did, because there's been so many people, and just trust me that Bill Shea and myself will go through this probably for the next several months, trying to figure out if there's someone we left behind. Do not hesitate to call us and tell us.
Absolutely.
Because we will, we're as dedicated to making sure that the people that stepped up and supported this have gotten their due, and we'll figure out a way to make that happen.
We're only human.
Yeah, we are only human. I was telling a little story about myself and my, because there's another group that never gets, I don't think everybody ever thinks in any way about, and that's the people at home. I came home from my last deployment to Vietnam. We had headed before I left on that. Our third child, our daughter, was born, and when I got home, she was alive when I took off for Vietnam, but when I got home, she was about 3 years old, and I had been gone. We went on a deployment for 6 months, which ended up being 11 months before we got home. And on a ship that I wrote my wife every day, but when they went off of the ship, we only got into a port every 44 days for 4 days and then back on the line again. My wife would get them in bundles, so I had to number all the things so she could read them in order. And that impacted that little girl. And when I got home and embraced my wife and children, when I was hugging my wife, Andrea, my daughter was pushing me away because she was angry. It impacted her more than, it impacted me, but in a different way than it impacted her. So when I think of that, because several years later, we somehow got through that, and Andrea, my wife today, would tell you that she is my copy. So you get through those things. But it brings to mind that we don't sometimes recognize this other group. And these are all of the mothers and fathers and children and relatives and people who love these veterans when they go off to war and then live in the shadow of someone walking up to the door to tell them that he or she was not coming home. You got to be, goes back to a remark I made on one of these earlier on, that you shouldn't marry a woman who is too dependent on you, because quite frankly you have to be dependent on them. And so every time somebody in the Navy, and I suspect all of the services, is up talking to someone, we always try to make sure that they all understand that a military wife is under just as much stress as everybody else. And we should thank all of those of you who in that SADC category. And this is not just about your husband or your wife and being a veteran. It's about a family.
Well put, Tom. All right, well, we want to collectively say thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we look forward to seeing many of you on Memorial Day for an unforgettable experience.
And I should tell you that the selectmen, I don't think Bill and I are advised are going to be able to come out and show you how to make one of these things work. We think we did a good job.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. But we need some time to power down, I think.
Decompress.
Thank you.